It's the end of September here in Austin, and we just want to check in on the hives and see how they're doing. We're gonna check out this hive. We just started getting into our fall flow, which is when the nectar is flowing for fall. And I want to check out this hive and just see if they're doing okay, if they need any support or help. So I'm gonna take a look. I'm giving them some smoke. This is just to prevent them from communicating their alarm pheromone and hopefully keep them as calm as possible. The bees have sealed this up good because I was just in here the other day. They seal it with propolis, which is a very sticky material. And actually, I'm gonna check this, this lid really quick because when I took it off the other day, the queen was right on top and she is not there today, so yay. Okay. They're a little loud. I'm gonna give them a little bit more smoke. And the smoke just coats their antennae so they can't communicate. They communicate through smell a lot, and they give off a pheromone when there's an alarm situation. So I just want to prevent them from sending alarm signals out while I'm in here because I don't want them attacking me, even though I have my bee suit on. It just makes for a much more enjoyable experience when you're in the hive, when the bees aren't super upset. Now this hive is interesting because this top box is a medium, and it's normally what you have your honey in, and I had this as a brood box on another hive. So I am actually trying to get the bees to come down into this brood box, which is a deep box. So they have more production up here than they do down here. So what I really want to do is I'm going to take a quick peek at what's going on in this top box, this medium. But what I want to do is check out what they're doing in the deep, which is the bottom box that's larger, because I want to see if they're filling out that comb, and that's where I want the queen to lay. I don't really necessarily want her laying up here. I want this to become a honey box, so a honey super is what we call it. And this is pretty good weight, and it's got a lot of nectar in it. I don't know if you can see the nectar, and there's some pollen in there too. Some of it's capped, but most of it is not capped. But it shows me that they're going out and they're getting some nectar and some pollen, so they have some sources right now, which we just had a really, really hot summer and the temperatures just finally broke. We were in the hundreds for over almost 60 days. So it's nice that we have a little bit of relief. We're just nice to be in the 90s, isn't that funny? I'm sure other states would be like, oh my God, that's so hot. But we're like, no, we'll take 90s over 100 for sure. So I am gonna look at a couple of these frames, and then honestly, I'm gonna take this box off and we're gonna check out the bottom and see how we're doing down there. This is another one. It feels, anytime you feel weight, know that that is nectar or honey, or actually honey, because it's just not capped honey yet, because that's what's heavy. The brood is not heavy. The baby bees are not heavy at all. It's the honey, and then, ooh, this has quite a bit of pollen on here. I don't know if you can zoom in and see that pollen. It's mostly on this side right here. All right, so I'm gonna move on from this box, and I'm gonna look at the bottom box because this box is pretty full. It looks like even over here, it looks like I actually have some more capped honey on this frame right here. So I'm gonna take this off and look and see what we've got going on in the bottom. Ooh, sorry, bee. So again, I gotta pry these boxes apart because there's propolis, which is very sticky, and that's how the bees seal their home, so that they are able to keep the temperature regulated and to keep pests out and all that good stuff too. I don't know if you can get a close-up of this, but you can see there's so many more bees in this box than there are in this box. And even just looking in here, I can see so many of the frames are not, there's no wax on them. They're not filled out. And this was a transition, you know, this was where they had put everything. They already had wax build frames out. And this one, they're working harder on it. And during those hot months that we had, they just weren't building wax. They just kind of stopped production. And I think it was mostly to just conserve, because there weren't enough resources, there wasn't enough water. So in order for them to conserve, they really needed to just slow down. And so I think as we rev up, as we're getting into these cooler temperatures, we've gotten some more rain, they're going to start building out. So you can see, this is a frame with a foundation. It's a black plastic foundation, and it's got a wax layer over it. And they've started to build out where you can see those light spaces where it's not all black. They're starting to build comb. It's just very gradual, so it's not a whole lot. And this just gives us a gauge of, you know, how fast they're working. When I looked at this during the summer, they pretty much barely were in this box, maybe on 2 frames. So I just want to see how many frames they're on now. It looks like they might be on 3 or 4. So I'm going to take out a few of these frames. And this hive stand is a design of a friend of mine, and you can put your frames right here on the edge, which is great, because then you don't have to have another tool or another box or anything like that to put your frames on. They're right here. And I probably wouldn't stand right here, but because we're filming today and that's the angle we're at, I am standing here. I wouldn't probably stand where I'm putting the frames. So, and also the front of the box is over here, so mostly I would do my work in the back of the box. But I'll take out a couple of frames, and then once I find a frame that hopefully has some brood on it, which is what I'm looking for them to do, is move the brood down here, then we can take a look at that. But this also shows me, you know, they're bringing in stuff. They've got some resources now, which is good. There was I'm sure they were very panicked during the summer months when it was so hot, and they were just trying to survive. I tend to try not to feed my bees because I want them to be able to sustain. Now, I did check them earlier in probably the end of July, and things were pretty dire, and the hives were very light. And what I mean by that is that when I felt the hives, they didn't have a lot of weight to them because there wasn't a lot of honey. Like I was saying, the honey weighs more than the bees. So you know there's honey production when you can feel that there's weight to it. Okay, so here's, this is the 3rd frame in. And as you can see, they have built out some comb. There's really not anything, well, there's a little bit of pollen in some of the cells, but there's not much in there yet. They're still working on building that out, which is good. It's a good sign to see. So the other side is pretty empty. There's a little bit of wax on there, but there's not much at all. So I'm gonna go, it looks like this 4th frame in has a lot on it. And I like to put the frames back exactly as I found them, because I feel like, you know, I don't want to mess up their house, right? Their couch is in the place that they left it. You know, if somebody were to come into your house and just start rearranging all your furniture and taking things away, and then you come back and you're very disoriented. I try to, since I am in their space and I am harassing them, I guess, in a sense, I don't want to dismantle all the hard work that they've done, and I want to put things back so that they can come back in and function in their space again. So I keep giving them a little bit of smoke just to keep them from sounding that alarm and it traveling to all the bees. And also, you know what? It helps move them out of the way so I don't squish any bees when I'm trying to get frames out. This is this is full of honey. I can feel it. It's a heavier frame, so it looks like they may be moving honey. Oh, there's a lot of pollen in this one too. Honey and pollen. I see some bees with their little pollen pockets. You can see the yellow and the orange. It's really pretty. They've returned from the flowers and they're probably going to deposit it in one of these cells. But this is a lot of pollen in here. And at this point we call it bee bread because they've made it into something other than just pollen. It's kind of got honey mixture and probably some of their enzymes in there. And this side is very, very full of pollen. So they've got pollen is their protein source. So they've got lots of pollen in here. Their little bee bread that they feed their larvae. and the baby bees. So this is looking like it may be the only frame that has a substantial amount of wax on it. It looks like everything else is pretty empty. But there are a lot of bees down here working, and I'm hoping that they're gonna start to build this stuff out now that we've hit cooler temperatures and there's more flow. So we get a couple of flows a year. We get our spring flow, which is generally we think is the most productive flow when all the spring flowers are blooming. But the fall flow can be pretty productive too. It's just different nectar sources. And we also have a summer flow, which we had a very slight summer flow this year because it was, like I said, the temperatures being well over 100 degrees, even like 110 throughout the majority of our summer. It was really hard for plants to survive. And so without those plants, they're not finding their nectar and their pollen sources. And not all plants produce nectar. So some of them are just for pollen gathering. It's very fascinating. All right, I'm gonna put these ladies up. I think I've looked enough. I saw the queen the other day when I was in here, so I know that hopefully they're still doing good. That was just the other day. Otherwise, I would be looking for signs of the queen if I hadn't seen her, like eggs, things like that. And so if you can't find your queen, don't worry about it. You can find signs that she is or has been in there just by seeing if there are eggs in the frames. These ladies look great. I'm not worried about them at all. They are doing their thing, and I'm just the landlord at this point. They're taking care of themselves. So I don't just, as a realtor, don't just find homes for humans, find homes for my bee people too. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and put this back on. I don't wanna squish any bees, so I'm trying to be as careful as possible. Ordinarily, I usually use a queen excluder between these two boxes because I want this to just primarily be a honey super, which means it just is where they put their honey stores. But in this case, like I said, I'm trying to get them to come down here into this box and hopefully start doing brood down here. So once they've filled out the wax, the queen really loves to the queen really loves to lay and clean new wax. So as they start to build these frames out, she will start laying hopefully, and then I can eventually put a queen excluder and have this be the honey box. So they're getting a little upset with me, so I'm gonna go ahead and put the lid back on and let them go about their business. The hive looks great and they're thriving instead of just being in survival mode. So as the temperatures begin to cool, we'll continue to check in on the hives and see how they're doing. So I hope to see you next time.